What time is it? Time to get your head in the game, Wildcat! You can bet on it that I've got a fabulous video that you've been waiting for. If you want it all, then don't go your own way because the boys are back and breaking free. The start of something new is right here, right now. Let's work this out because it's now or never. Every day I eat carrots with hummus. So don't walk away because we're all in this together. Okay, that should do it for the SEO. Although on the surface, High School Musical 1, 2, and 3 seem like exactly the same movie. You know, Troy and Gabriella like each other, Sharpay also likes Troy, there's a performing event that only Sharpay and Ryan are interested in. Oh no wait, actually all of a sudden Gabriella is also interested and convinces Troy/everyone to participate in it. Kelsi writes a song for Troy and Gabriella, Ryan wears a lot of hats, Troy feels pressured and lost. Kelsi wears a lot of hats. Sharpay sabotages the Wildcats. Gabriella and Troy break up. Gabriella sings sadly into the camera. Troy can't shoot hoops anymore. Sharpay sings an upbeat version of a ballad. Everybody works together to save the show. Gabriella and Troy make up and sing a duet on stage, and we end the film with a big dance number. Like I said, although they might seem exactly like the same movie, I am going to compare all three of them in this video in terms of music, choreography, cringy acting, and so on and so forth. I will talk at length about my feelings about this franchise, and I will even allocate points. At the end of the video, we will add up all the points and settle once and for all which movie is the most iconic, the most influential, revolutionary work of art that the Disney Channel has ever produced. Seeing the running time went up with each film, naturally the soundtrack also expanded with every installment. The first film is 1 hour and 38 minutes and has 10 songs. But actually only 9 because I Can't Take My Eyes Off You is definitely not in the film. I've never even heard of it if I'm honest. I can't take my eyes off you. Ew. Wait, but Sharpay and Ryan are siblings, like... It's giving incest. Now we know why it got cut. The second film is 1 hour and 51 minutes long and has 11 songs, and the final film is a whopping 2 hours. Do kids have that kind of attention span? Because I don't. With 13 songs, but 3 of them are reprises, so kind of only 10 really. Interestingly enough, the third film is the only one to have reprises. The other two obviously have their Sharpay version of a ballad, but the third film is the only one to lean a bit more into the traditional use of music in musical theater, aka certain melodies carry a narrative significance, aka we get a reprise when a certain plotline undergoes a big development. This isn't the only aspect where the third film steers away from your classic Disney movie musical, but we'll get to that. For now, let's compare the music of the 3 films, one category at a time. The 3 opening numbers couldn't be more different if they tried. The first film treats us with a little prologue where Troy and Gabriella meet on a winter vacation and randomly get picked to sing at a karaoke party, where the theme clearly was obnoxious hats. I read in an article that the writers deliberately chose for the first song to be diegetic, which means that the characters are knowingly performing the song, if that makes sense, like this song exists in their universe. They're performing it to other characters instead of just to us, the audience. But so they made it diegetic in an attempt to make people watch a musical. Well, 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 doesn't that sound familiar? Even in 2006, writers had to work around audiences' preconceived notions. Come on, Wicked, we're counting on you to change the tide. The sequel unapologetically starts off with the mega upbeat What Time Is It, celebrating the start of summer holidays. Little side note on that one, did anyone else notice that the timing is kind of off in this song? Like, the singing is ever so slightly behind? No more waking up at 6 a.m. See? Exactly that. Is this an attempt to add some realism to the sound? Because I don't think that's gonna work in this heavily produced, auto-tuned like crazy context. Like, we're all very aware that this isn't real life. Or maybe this just seeped through the cracks as a result of an unrealistic deadline. Keep in mind that the sequel came out in 2007, so only 1 year after the first film. To write, film, and edit a movie musical in a year. Strike while the iron is hot, eh? Maybe they were trying to add a little bit of a jazz vibe? Anyway, the third film opens with a very dramatic Now or Never, where the Wildcats are losing in the finale of the championship. It's high stakes, it's dark, it's edgy, it's sweaty. It shows that the Wildcats are growing up. How to choose which one is my favorite? Honestly, knowing that Start of Something New was meant to ease audiences in kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Don't get me wrong, it probably was the right choice to start the franchise off in this way in order to maximize the viewership, but Yeah, I just get kind of triggered by this whole musicals are embarrassing rhetoric. And even though Now or Never is a very strong opener, my point has to go to What Time Is It, simply because I like the style more. Now or Never's almost R&B style, mainly in the verses, is just simply less my thing. Although I love the cheerleader chants. West High Nights, yeah we're doing it, right? But no, honestly, I have to stick to my choice because the never-ending flashing lights in Now or Never is gonna give me epilepsy. What are they even meant to represent? Paparazzi? What Time Is It, with its cheesiness and epic choreo, has to be my winner. Point for the sequel. Okay, so obviously our villain, whom I don't think is the actual main villain, watch my video, but only after you've finished watching this one. Thank you. Gets to sing a few certified bops. Now I do think we need to separate them into two categories. The Sharpay Originals and the Sharpay Covers. In the Sharpay Original category, we have Bop to the Top, Fabulous, and I Want It All. Huma Huma also falls under this category, but seeing native Hawaiians have expressed issue with this song, and therefore Disney has deleted it from Disney+, we'll just stick with Fabulous to represent the sequel in this category. Now, I don't know if I'm being incredibly biased here, because even though I think all three songs are very strong contenders, I without a doubt want to give the win to Fabulous. The pool vibes, the witty lyrics, I don't know, it's just so quintessentially Sharpay. Am I just imagining that Fabulous is definitely the most iconic Sharpay song? On Spotify, Bop to the Top has 54 million streams, Fabulous nearly 78 million, and I Want It All over 52 million. Okay, so the general public does agree with me. Fabulous is indeed fabulous. The cover category consists of What I've Been Looking For, You Are the Music in Me, and I Just Want to Be With You. Straight away, we can put I Just Want to Be With You on the third place because it's a joke, like it doesn't actually show off Sharpay's talents. So between the two that are left, my vote goes to You Are the Music in Me! Yes, applause! Wow! It is the epitome of Sharpay's showmanship. There are backing singers, fireworks, a wind machine. What I've Been Looking For is obviously a close second, but You Are the Music in Me just takes the cake for me. Mr. Basketball himself obviously also has a few bangers, respectively Get Your Head in the Game, Bet on It, and Scream. So whilst Scream has top-notch visuals with the spinning hallway and Get Your Head in the Game has become one of the most iconic catchphrases of the franchise, I still think Bet on It is the superior choice. It has the most catchy tune, and very importantly, Troy actually comes into action in this one. In the other two songs, he expresses feeling lost and pressured, but he doesn't do anything about it. In Bet on It, he feels these things and takes them as motivation to make a change. So yet again, I'm gonna give the point to the sequel. Sorry, but not sorry. Our freaky math girl takes the balance on with When There Was Me and You, I Gotta Go My Own Way, and Walk Away, where in two of them, she sings sadly in front of lockers. Oh, if only she would have sung in front of her dresser in her bedroom in the third film, we would have had 3 out of 3! I mean, do I really have to explain to you why I Gotta Go My Own Way is the obvious choice here? It's a bit of a cheat because it turns into a duet with Troy, but I can't fault musicals for incorporating the narrative into the songs now, can I? Especially if it treats us with a very dramatic, highly emotional bridge. But I also think that even without the Troy bit, I Gotta Go My Own Way would still be the top one. Let's take, for example, the long note in each song. The so in I Gotta Go My Own Way feels like it has purpose. It's not just there for the sake of having a long note or to show off her vocals. So I'm giving the point to the sequel. Our Lovebirds average about 2.5 duets per film. Start of Something New, What I've Been Looking For, which is only about a minute long, hence why I'm counting it as a half song, and Breaking Free in the first film. Then we have You Are the Music in Me, Gotta Go My Own Way, which as previously discussed is only a duet for half of the song, hence why it's also a half song in this category, and Every Day in the sequel. And in the final film we get Right Here Right Now, Can I Have These Dance, and I Just Want to Be With You. Plus a whole slew of reprises. So there are a lot of candidates, but only one can be the winner. For ease, let's discard the half songs, especially seeing Gotta Go My Own Way already received points. I think it's only fair if every film gets to choose one tribute to fight their battles. As I mentioned in the beginning of it, I'm not the biggest fan of Start of Something New, so the first film's representative will be Breaking Free. There's something very catchy about the na-na-na-na of You're the Music in Me that forces me to select it as the sequel's submission. And for the third film, I gotta say that I'm not the biggest fan of both Right Here, Right Now or Can I Have This Dance. I feel like they both miss a memorable hook. They don't live rent-free in your head, you know. So that leaves us with I Just Wanna Be With You to represent the third film. Okay, so the battle is between Breaking Free, You Are the Music in Me, and I Just Wanna Be With You. Thinking about it now, I kind of feel like the latter two songs are very similar. Like, I can already hear the remix in my head. Na 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 na, yeah. I just wanna be with you. Tell me that doesn't work. Do they use the same chords, maybe? Well, will you look at that? That's not very far off now, is it? Imagine if Breaking Free now also uses these chords. Imagine if all the songs of High School Musical use these chords. Okay, no, conspiracy theory debunked. Well, the same chords thing kind of gives me an excuse to elect Breaking Free, which was my personal favorite anyway. Typical for the musical theatre genre, all three films end with a big dancey group number. First we get All in This Together, then All for One, and lastly High School Musical. An easy cut for me is All for One, as it's framed as this extra song that stands a bit apart from the rest of the story. Like, it almost feels more like the song at the end of the bows rather than the finale, if you get what I mean. And although I really appreciate the almost nostalgic message of High School Musical, I can't help but feel like the writers were kind of trying to brainwash the audience. High School Musical, who says we have to let it go, it's the best part we've ever known. Keep listening to the songs, keep buying merch. So for me, the Best Finale Song Award definitely goes to All in This Together because of its catchy hook, but also for its iconic choreography. Tell me you don't know it, at least those first two steps. If you don't, then you're a liar, and you know you are. Nerd alert! The next section will be quite theoretical, so if that's not really your cup of tea, feel free to skip to the next chapter for the continuation of the banter. Because every film is centered around some sort of performance, you know, the callback in the first film, the talent show in the second film, the spring musical in the third film, all three of them have quite a few diegetic songs. Remember songs that characters are aware they're performing? Like, for example, Start of Something New. They're singing because they're at a karaoke. What I've Been Looking For and Breaking Free. Singing because at an audition. In contrary to non-diegetic songs like Get Your Head in the Game, where it is in fact just basketball practice, but Troy is singing because he is sharing his inner monologue with the audience. The third film, however, really plays with this line as to when they are knowingly performing the song and when they are performing it in abstract musical theater land. This because they have chosen to make the spring musical about themselves. They go quite meta, and in certain parts of the film where they transition into song, it actually then later turns out that it is a song that they will perform for their spring musical. So the song at first is them experiencing something in real time. For example, getting asked for prom. But then the characters end up using that experience as inspiration for their spring musical about themselves. So essentially the songs go from being non-diegetic, the characters are singing because it is a movie musical, to diegetic when they sing the song in the senior year spring musical. I hope I'm making any sense here. The best example is A Night to Remember. It starts off with Chad standing on a table in the cafeteria inviting Taylor to prom. So a very non-diegetic setting. He's not putting a performance on for her. But then we cut abruptly to this big musical number, and by the end of the song, we find out we are in fact in rehearsals for the spring musical. So within one song, we went from non-diegetic to diegetic. A very interesting choice, but annoyingly, this somehow results into very clunky scene-to-song transitions. Normally, musicals have underscores to smooth out these transitions. You know, character says something meaningful. Underscore starts playing under the rest of the dialogue till the song begins, and naturally the character starts singing. This really helps to ground it all, to make it feel less random that they just start singing. But underscores aren't really needed, of course, if it makes sense within the story for the characters to start singing, aka at a performance. So say it with me when the songs are diegetic. I hope this diegetic versus non-diegetic thing is clear by now. But because High School Musical 3 has songs that are both non-diegetic and diegetic at the same time, they sometimes choose the no underscore approach in non-diegetic scenarios. Characters literally start singing mid-conversation with no build-up whatsoever.
Exactly. Imagine having everything we ever dreamed.
Okay, random. I guess you could justify the abruptness as a stylistic choice to juxtapose the real world against the abstract musical theater land. But I'm personally not the biggest fan of this choice, to be honest. A little underscore never hurt nobody. What I am a fan of is how this meta approach is translated into the more theatrical settings of these songs, with big fake sets, fun costumes, characters playing other parts. We're completely leaving the normal world behind. In the other two films, the characters always stay in the real world, whether they're singing or not, diegetic or not. Big ensemble numbers take place in the cafeteria or in the kitchen of the lava springs. We never visually leave the normal world. In the third film, the only songs that take place in this embodiment of abstract musical theatre land are the non-diegetic songs that turn diegetic. A very fun way to visually represent this teetering on the line. Hence why I Just Wanna Be With You is set in the real world, because we're in rehearsals, it's diegetic straight away. Same for the 100% non-diegetic songs, like for example Now or Never. We don't go to abstract musical theatre land and stay on the basketball court. Wait, it also gets a reprise in the spring musical and therefore becomes diegetic? So it's a non-diegetic song that becomes diegetic? But then why aren't we in abstract musical theatre land with fun costumes and big sets? That makes no sense according to the rules that you yourself have set up! As you can tell, I think High School Musical 3 is a mess when it comes to use of song. There are strong ideas but no consistency, which ends up confusing and alienating the audience. Too many cooks perhaps? Anyway, what's my point here? Because I have to give a point. Although I appreciate the out-of-the-box thinking of High School Musical 3, the lack of logic really throws me off. I like the idea, but not the execution. So I guess my points go to the other two films for having a clear, albeit traditional use of song and sticking to it. They also have a healthy balance between diegetic and non-diegetic, so you're getting no complaints from me. Right, enough about the music, let's talk about the dancing! All three films are choreographed by Kenny Ortega, Bonnie Story, and Charles Clappow. Which is actually kind of wild that there are 3 choreographers, seeing each film only has about 4 group numbers. So I don't know if it was more the case of Story and Clappow doing the groundwork and director Kenny Ortega just doing the finishing touches, but whatever the arrangement, I think they managed to get quite a streamlined style, so clearly their collaboration worked well. I'm only going to discuss the big dance numbers because most of the smaller choreos are usually catered for the leads, who tend to not be the biggest dancers. So it's always quite basic and not very interesting to talk about. Our first category is for the boys only, and therefore it's called Sausage Fest. Our contestants are Get Your Head in the Game, I Don't Dance, and Boys Are Back. Even though Get Your Head in the Game has a lot of slightly eggy filler moves in the first half of the song, when they finally get into it, I really like this choreo. It's tight, it's fun, it's with a basketball. Now come on now. I'm a sucker for a choreo with a prop. Done well, of course. The creative use of the prop kind of reminded me of Seize the Day in Newsies, where they dance with newspapers. And let me tell you, that choreo is good for the soul. Doctors should prescribe that instead of antidepressants. Not coincidentally, High School Musical is directed by the same person who directed the 1992 Newsies film, Kenny Ortega. A prime example of the crossover skills a movie musical director should have. You can see his experience as a choreographer shine through in the way that Get Your Head in the Game is shot. Moving camera to match the drive, fast-paced cuts to complement the energy, bird's eye to show off the formation. He knows how to translate choreo to film. Representing the second film in this category is our paradoxal gem, I Don't Dance. Not only do they indulge me by dancing with props, baseball hat and glove, the style also leans more towards jazz, which is such a fun choice in a baseball setting, as baseball has a connotation with a more nostalgic America, which pairs nicely with this more jazzy golden age of Broadway vibe. Perfect to convey the potentially sexual tension between Chad and Ryan. Can we take a moment to appreciate Cordon Bleu's versatility, by the way? In other choreos we've seen his groove and power, but here he can show off his more technical background, clean shapes, very sharp. He's a very talented dancer. Also, I love this dude bopping in the background. Like, you just know Kenny Ortega was like, all right, we need to keep up the energy. Like, you guys just bop. And this dude took that note and ran with it. He was convinced that if he bopped his way to the top, Ortega would make him the new Zac Efron. Our last contestant in this category is The Boys Are Back. I knew that The Boys Are Back had a good choreo, but upon rewatching it now, I've realized that it might be the best choreo of the whole franchise. Bless me. It's just such a good film. Not only are the little moments between Chad and Troy in the beginning already very tight, once the ensemble comes in for that dance break, like, oof, my mind is blown. This very thriller-esque choreography is a clear indicator of both Ortega and Clappow's connection to Michael Jackson. You can also tell that our dancing queen Corbin is having the time of his life. He must have loved Michael Jackson growing up. That's not to say that Zac Efron can't hold his own next to him, though. Especially impressive seeing Efron claims he didn't dance much before High School Musical. 3 really strong contenders, but which one will get the award? And the winner is... The boys are back! Point to senior year. By the way, how random that the third film does have an extended title, aka High School Musical 3 Senior Year, but the sequel is just High School Musical 2. Like, what a missed opportunity. They could have gone for High School Musical 2, Lulzies at the Lava Springs. Or even better, High School Musical 2, Life in High Saturation. Troy is honestly orange in some of these shots. It's kind of triggering in this political landscape, okay? Coming in hot, our Cafetaria Category. The first film submission is Stick to the Status Quo. And I'm gonna be super honest right off the bat, I think this might be the worst choreo of the entire series. It's the kind of dance a choreographer makes up on the spot because they didn't realize they were meant to choreograph this one too. A situation which doesn't seem highly unrealistic when there are 3 choreographers involved. Now musically, I really like this song, especially Sharpay's solo. Singing "This is not what I want, this is not what I planned" at any minor inconvenience just makes life a little bit better, you know. So thank you High School Musical for giving me that spark of joy. The catchiness of the song might mislead you, but when you actually look at the choreo, it's super straightforward. Very generic, really. And then to save themselves having to come up with even more choreo on the spot, the choreographer throws in a freestyle section. That old party trick. Now I agree, it does make sense in the narrative context of everyone being an individual, but still, kind of convenient, isn't it? I'm guessing they made this choreo this simple because of the large amount of extras that are in this number. I assume most of them have a fairly basic dance background, so I get it. You gotta work with what you've been given. What time is it is the redemption of the disappointment that was status quo. They've clearly given up on making non-dancers dance, straight away hitting us with the lead cheerleaders, like just look at how beautifully in sync their quadruple 4 pirouettes are. To finish with a kick, oh, so satisfying. What a high. In the big ensemble section, they leave the choreo to the actual dancers and have the extras do an easy step down the stairs to still add to the energy and epic scale of it all without compromising on good choreo. Cause it really is good choreo. Oh, and we also get another basketball dance, which we've already established I love. Plus the iconic wave shot, like, yeah. I'm a big fan of What Time Is It? For the third film we have I Want It All, which actually has surprisingly little amount of choreo. Most of the song exists out of creating these dream images, which works very well in my opinion, but that does mean that for this category, I can only really rate it on its tiny Chicago, almost Fosse-inspired dance section. Which is nice and gets the smooth vibe across, but it's done before you know it. We do also get a kick line of girls in pink boots at the end, so they're definitely scoring some points. Look, I really tried to be generous here and even took into account the choreo for its reprise in the spring musical, but there's still not a lot happening here. So yeah, this might not be the third film's category, if you know what I mean. The winner of the Cafetaria Category is... What Time Is It? By a landslide. Next category is... Miscellaneous. It is with great sadness that I inform you that the first film has decided to withdraw from this category on the account of having no group numbers left. We will keep them in our thoughts and prayers during these upsetting times. The sequel's candidate for Miscellaneous is Work This Out, which upon a rewatch I've realized only has choreo for the chorus. And it's a really fun one, but we do see the same dance about 3 times. It obviously also has its designated freestyle section, which they at least try to zhuzh up with small group moments here, so gotta give some kudos for that. But overall, meh. It's a fun song, but when you look at actual choreography, it's mostly copy-paste. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but also maybe not the strongest work of the franchise. Representing the third film is A Night to Remember. Just like I Want It All, A Night to Remember is filled with these fun scenarios in the first half of the song, but in the second half we get a whole dance part with more disco-inspired choreo. Very Saturday Night Fever. I'm here for it. Give the dancers also a moment to shine, love it, and overall, I feel like they rehearsed this one to the bone. Like the unison is really there, even in the details. This is the kind of hard work that gets rewarded. Point for the third film. And finally, our finale category, which consists of, you guessed it, the finale numbers! Like I said in a previous section, the choreo overall in this together is absolutely iconic. Still quite simple, of course, but effective, memorable, and just fun. But despite it being on the simple side, Miss Kelsi doesn't quite nail it.
So our hands go up, up, not down, down? Why did no one correct this? Or if she couldn't apply the note, why she still stood at the front? Or why are we even using this footage? Like, someone please, fix this.
Besides the Kelsi incident, We're All in This Together is honestly a 10 out of 10. Ortega even throws in a section of more technical, advanced dancing. Such a generous soul. Okay, so you know how I earlier said Kenny Ortega really knows how to make choreo look its best on film? Well, I don't know if this still applies to All for One, because it looks very chaotic.
Which makes me think that he's trying to hide a messy, perhaps last-minute put-together performance. I know I'm being picky, but it's his own fault for raising the bar this high.
They try to give it the same epic scale as What Time Is It, with all the people in the back dancing and splashing, but for some reason it feels like overkill here. I do think it is largely to do with the camera angles and movements.
I'm overstimulated, like it just doesn't come together harmoniously.
And then we have the final group song, naturally titled High School Musical. This massive group number definitely had the potential to end up looking messy like All for One, but it actually reads very cohesive to me. Might have to do with the fact that they kept a bit of space between the groups of people in the shots, gives us some air to breathe. I feel like the vision for this song was clear from the get-go. They'll all be dancing in graduation gowns, so let's make the movements big and clear to keep the choreo legible. Let's add in turns so the gowns flow beautifully in the bird's eye shots. Then let's have a little throwback to the iconic wave shot of What Time Is It? But let's extend it and have more fun with it. They clearly put the time and effort into making sure this trilogy gets the ending it deserves.
And for that exact reason, the winner of the finale category is High School Musical! Point to senior year.
So having had a look at all three films individually, I think it becomes very clear that with each installment, the level of choreo and execution rises. We've come a long way from the generic status quo dance to the giant ensemble, well thought out High School Musical choreo.
A lot of that probably has to do with a bigger budget with which they can hire more professional dancers, have longer rehearsal times, maybe even take more time in the creative process. So it doesn't surprise me that most of the awards in this category went to the third film.
Seeing I've already spoken about the music and the choreos, it would only be natural for me to now talk about the narrative. But like I said at the start of the video, the story beats of High School Musical are pretty much identical in the three films. To give the illusion of variety, they change up the circumstances a bit, but it always boils down to the same thing. Troy is torn between living up to other people's expectations and his own dreams.
Believe me, I tried to compare the story beats to each other, but there was no real insight to be shared, just the same chocolate in a different wrapper. So no points to be allocated here. A thought that I would like to share in regards to the narrative though, is that by constantly regurgitating the same story, the writers kind of force a cyclical structure onto a linear story. The characters always starting in somewhat the same place at the beginning of the film negates the growth they made at the end of the previous film. Instead of Troy embracing his musical side after playing the lead in the Winter Musical, he for some reason doesn't want to sing at the talent show in the second film, and refuses again to participate in the Spring Musical in the third film. Zeke even laughs at the fact that Juilliard are considering Troy for its scholarship, but that makes literally no sense. Ya boy has already sung at multiple events by now. Why does the idea of him being a performer make you laugh?
Sharpay always ends the film by suddenly becoming chummy with the Wildcats, but then starts every film off as the antagonist again. The side characters do get to keep their growth, like for example Zeke stays a baker, Martha stays a dancer, even becomes a cheerleader in the third film. But that's simply because they are of no relevance to the plot. The film would be pretty much the same with or without them.
Harsh, but true.
The writers luck out because this cyclical approach does make sense for some of the relationships. I'm thinking of, for example, how Sharpay treats Ryan at the start of every film. She's very bossy, almost bullies him at times, but by the end of the film they always end up making amends, to then in the next film start back in this toxic bully place. But as siblings, I don't think it's a weird thing to flip between being mortal enemies the one day and then back to being besties the next. Same with Gabriella and Troy. Them breaking up in the middle of every film is almost a natural consequence of it being a teenage romance. A lover's spat is bound to happen from time to time. The attentive listener will have picked up that I said this structure only works for some of the relationships. The biggest example of where this approach makes no sense is with Sharpay and Zeke's relationship. At the start of each film, Sharpay is trying to seduce Troy, even though we know her and Zeke form a connection in the after-credits scene of the first film. So her still actively trying to break up Troy and Gabriella in the sequel, right in front of Zeke's eyes, is borderline psychotic.
And it's not like they've bonded over biscuits and then broken up again in the time between the first and the second film. They literally dance together in every couple dance for the rest of the franchise. The creatives clearly know that this storyline makes no sense because the few scenes that Zeke and Sharpay share get either hidden as a post-credit scene or just deleted. Seeing the side characters are the only ones to escape this Groundhog Day curse, I will focus on them for my narrative comparison of the 3 films, more specifically on their relationships. Let's dive a bit deeper into Shark. That's my ship name for Sharpay and Zeke. I think it's gonna catch on. Everyone knows that our Michelin baker Zeke has a thing for drama queen Sharpay from the get-go. Except for he doesn't, because in the first film at East High he mocks her by calling her an ice princess. Or is that a cover-up? In ye old Flemish we have the saying, meisjes plagen is liefde vragen, which loosely translates to tease a girl is to ask for love. And I think Zeke's behavior here definitely fits this playground phenomenon, as his tune quickly changes after stick to the status quo. Once he opens up about his passion for baking, he finds the courage to approach his crush and asks her if she wants to watch him play ball sometime. It's safe to say that his attempt is not met with success, as Sharpay's mind in that moment is a bit preoccupied, to put it nicely. Nevertheless, Zeke doesn't give up and bakes Sharpay some cookies, which she refuses and Ryan takes them. In the post-credit scene, when Zeke is having an intimate moment with the balloons, we find out that she did end up eating them and absolutely loves them. The way through a drama queen's heart is through her stomach, apparently. Ending the first film with a big hug. Very cute way to end their plotline. It already makes me excited for what's next. The second film starts off with a little shark teaser where Sharpay kisses Zeke's yearbook. But then we get a scene where Sharpay tells Ryan that her and Troy should be together. I'm sorry, what? What about Zeke's cookies? Sharpay is so obsessed with Troy that she demands he gets hired to work at the lava springs. Troy accepts the offer on the condition that the other Wildcats also get a job. So in a way, Sharpay does get Zeke a summer job, but I don't know if it works out in his favor, as he now has a front row seat to watching his love interest do whatever it takes to trick another man into falling in love with her. In the lantern scene, the two of them do stand next to each other again. So supposedly after the talent show they reconnect, but the writers leave it up to us to fill in the blanks. Tying up loose ends without actually tying them up. Bit lazy on the writer's behalf. Given that Sharpay and Zeke dance together in All for One, we all assume that they are a thing again. But Sharpay's first scene in the third film is yet again her trying to flirt with Troy, and this time with Zeke standing right next to her. Zeke, what kind of emotional baggage do you have in order to accept this toxic behavior? You deserve so much more. In previous films, Sharpay's obsession with Troy is a crucial element to drive the plot forwards. In the first film, it's the reason why she prints off Gabriella's previous school credits and shoves them in Taylor's locker as an attempt to steer Gabriella away from doing the callbacks and getting closer to Troy. In the second film, we need Sharpay to be obsessed with him so that all of the Wildcats end up working at the lava springs, and so that Troy gets given all of these opportunities and advantages which fuels the rupture between him and the Wildcats. Sharpay still being obsessed with Troy in the third film is actually quite irrelevant to the plot. Sure, she convinces Troy to talk Gabriella into attending Stanford's freshman program, but wouldn't he have done that anyway? I guess the reasoning is that he wouldn't have found out about the program without Sharpay telling him, but I think that Taylor could have easily played that part in the story. There already is a scene where she is trying to convince Gabriella to go to the program, so when she then fails, it wouldn't be that weird that she would ask Troy for help. But I guess Sharpay would then get the role as a lucky chance, not as a result of her scheming. Fair, Sharpay should be the one to tell Troy about the freshman program. But does she need to be in love with him to do that though? Can't her motivation just be to get the lead? Narratively, it doesn't add anything except for confusion when it comes to Zeke and Sharpay. As usual, the two of them dance together in A Night to Remember, and there is even a deleted scene where he tries to ask her out for prom and she beats him to it. So why does Sharpay still want to practice the kissing scene with Troy then? I mean, she doesn't come across very lovingly in that deleted scene, so perhaps she's just using him so she doesn't end up going to prom alone? Which is sad. If only she would open up her heart to him. Anyway, out of the three films, I think Shark actually only makes sense in the first film. He asks her out, she says no, he bakes her cookies, and she changes her mind. They went from A to B, a very simple transformation, but at least a clear one. In the other two films, their relationship trajectory is murky due to the narrative need of Sharpay always having to be obsessed with Troy at the start of the films. So point for the first one. The second side character relationship we're gonna discuss is Chad and Taylor's. I know both of them are technically part of the lead cast, but the function of their characters is to support Troy and Gabriella's journey. So the fact that these two are in a romantic relationship is kind of irrelevant. The creatives just gave them a connection so they could be dance partners. So even though they themselves are part of the main cast, their relationship is definitely a side character plotline. In the first film, the two of them start out in pretty much the exact same space as Shark. Wait, what would their ship name be? Jailer, Tad. We'll come back to it. Anyway, the writers decided to copy-paste Shark's dynamic in the beginning of the film in the sense that Chad and Taylor clearly belong to different worlds and are even a bit hostile towards each other. But plot twist, this time it's the girl who's throwing the insults. Girl power! It being the early 2000s, Disney obviously resorted to the enemies to lovers trope. Chad and Taylor are forced to work together to break up Troy and Gabriella, and along the way they end up forming a romantic connection, which we can see demonstrated very elegantly in this moment. Am I the only one who's always thought that this was the most awkward position ever? I understand that if they would just hold hands, we wouldn't see it, but I don't know, position them to the front. Maybe even put in a close-up of them sharing a look of oh my god, we're holding hands. Oh, I'm shy now. Now we're left with this weird human arm composition. When the Wildcats then give the science team a pie, Chad covers Taylor's eyes, which is very cute but totally overshadowed by Troy doing the same thing to Gabriella. How am I expected to revel in Chad and Taylor's romance when the main couple is also being cute? I'm not a multitasker. At the end of the first film, Chad asks Taylor out in a very fuckboy way. So you're going with me, right?
Like on a date?
Must be your lucky day. Gross. No. Bad Chad. Bad Chad. Yeah, it's because of their teasy dynamic, but no. I will not support the normalization of fuckboy behavior. Taylor is obviously over the moon, and so their story of the first film finishes with a happy ending. Because their romance is irrelevant to the regurgitated main plotline we get fed in each film, the two of them actually start the second film in a natural progression of their relationship, aka they're dating now. Anytime they share a scene, we get a little flirt, which is a cute little side dish to accompany the main course. Although they share so little scenes that it's more like a seasoning than an actual side dish. But I enjoy it. In the third film, the two of them are still together and being cute, although this time around, Taylor will not put up with Chad's toxic masculinity anymore. She demands to be properly invited to the prom. The way she goes about it is a bit exaggerated in my opinion, but at least she isn't glamorizing fuckboy behavior anymore, so I'm happy with the progress. Although I clearly shouldn't get too excited about their relationship, seeing they're definitely going to break up after graduation. Oh my god, wait, what? Yeah, sorry guys, but the evidence is right here. Both Taylor and Chad tell Gabriella and Troy respectively that high school romances don't last.
Everybody knows that you don't bring the girl with you after high school.
But there will be other battles.
Yikes. That's bleak. Right, so we have enemies to lovers in the first film, romantic seasoning in the second film, and lead up to breakup in the third film. Classics are classics for a reason. Point for the first film. Although in season 4 of High School Musical, the series, it is confirmed that Ryan Evans is gay, his sexuality was never canonically addressed in the trilogy. And so Ryan ends up having underlying romantic tension with multiple characters from different genders. You little bisexual slut. I love it. In the first film, Ryan is very much Sharpay's funny sidekick, although I find his stupidity more cringy than funny, but it is early 2000s Disney after all. Given his minor relevance to the story, the writers naturally didn't bother giving him a romantic side plot. They make up for it though by making Ryan one of the main drivers of the story of High School Musical 2 and giving him 2 connections, Chad and Gabriella. The internet unanimously agrees that I Don't Dance is one big flirt between Chad and Ryan. I mean, how else should we interpret it after being fed the enemies to lovers trope with both Shark and Taylor? I was thinking the more I would say, the better it would start to sound, but I think I might have to just give up on it. Just like they did, woot! The creators basically confirmed our hunch by having Ryan and Chad swap clothes in the scene after. Alright, did you boys have some fun in the locker rooms? Poor Taylor, naively commenting on the hats. Maybe this is where Chad and Taylor's relationship started to crumble. Is Ryan a homewrecker? Or maybe it was actually Taylor's idea to open it up to a third person and she also paid a visit to the locker room? I bet you there's fanfic about that somewhere on the internet. After seeing the three of them getting freaky, Gabriella decides she also wants a piece of that ass and gets a little flirty with Ryan. Unfortunately though, Troy isn't on board. Ugh, he's so vanilla. Oh, I forgot, Ryan also has a one-night stand with Martha in the lantern scene at the end of the second film. I mean, who's to say it was a one-night thing? They do dance together in All for One. Someone stayed over for breakfast. In the third film, Ryan gets linked to yet another character, Kelsi. Sharpay orders Ryan to get close to her to get her best songs. And despite the ulterior motive, they do end up having a bit of chemistry and even go to prom together. Although I can't help but feel like their relationship is more of a platonic one. It gives me lesbian girly and gay boy bezies vibes. Connecting over their mutual love for theater, but perhaps also over still being in the closet. The fact that Ryan got close to Kelsi on Sharpay's orders somewhat taints this relationship for me though. So essentially I need to allocate a point to either slutty Ryan from the sequel or conniving Ryan from the third film. Obviously I prefer the Summer of Love. Point for the sequel! To finish this comparison, I thought I'd throw in a little Cringe Fest Lightning round. Starting us off is the amazing acting performance from East High's mechanics teacher. Another stellar performance, this time from Daddy Chad.
It's a foul!
Then we have Gabriella getting stage fright even though Troy is the one who starts the song. Next is our fabulous Blondie. Troy falling asleep during his own motivation speech.
Alright. Hey guys.
Sharpay delivering the worst joke of the whole franchise.
She loves pie.
Gabriella being dramatic AF. Ryan being the mascot. Another robot delivery from Troy.
My fuel pump's deceased.
And finally, Troy's invisible watch. Alright. The moment is here. The results are in. It was a very close call, but the winner of the ultimate High School Musical throwdown is High School Musical 2! Congrats, babe. As I discussed in this video, each film has their own strength, and so the entirety of this epic trilogy has rightfully so earned their place in our collective consciousness. I sincerely hope it will withstand the test of time and future generations will treat it with the respect that it deserves. If you made it till the end of this video, hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. I make video essays about musical theater here on YouTube, so if that's something you're into, please make sure to click the subscribe button. But if you're only here for the High School Musical content, don't you worry. There are still multiple spin-offs that I am bound to make a video about one day, so you should probably subscribe to. Although after 2 videos about High School Musical, I think I'm gonna step away from East High for a while. I will return back to my roots and compare a musical theater adaptation to its movie. Perhaps a cult classic that is set to release a sequel in a month or so? I don't know. Maybe. I guess you'll have to turn on your notification bell to make sure. Anyway, that was the end of my content creator spiel. I hope you have a nice day. Bye. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi. You're right. Carry on.
Thanks. Who's your favorite High School Musical character?
Zac Efron, I guess.
It's Zaf. Oh my god, mine too. I'll text you when I'm done.
Wow, see you soon.
Sabotage. Would you like to comment on your sabotage, Jack 2?